Hi everyone, so I'm going to show you two methods how to make a paper set design for your Alice in Wonderland theme. So the first is the triangle method. You're going to need a piece of A4 paper for this. You're going to want to look for card, but if you don't have card at home, thick paper will do. You can use printer paper too. You might just find you need to make 2 layers to make it a little bit thicker. So you're going to fold it down to the corner like I've just done on the video to make a triangle. When you open it back up, you've got a perfect square. So you're now going to fold to the opposite corner so that when you open up your shape, you're left with 4 equal triangles, and you're going to make an incision in one of them, okay, just down the middle there, which will then fold together. As soon as you fold that together, you're going to create this 3-dimensional shape. Okay, it's going to be almost a corner of your set. Okay, now in the video I'm going to show you how to tape it together or glue it together. If you're going to carry on with this activity, it may be that you don't want to do the gluing bit yet. It'll make it easier to do the drawing later on. But when you do glue it together, you can use a Pritt stick, PVA glue, sellotape if you've got it, masking tape, whatever you have at home, just to fold that corner in. If you're not folding that corner in yet and doing the glue, then just make a scribble line so you know not to put your design on it. Now the alternative method you can use is the rectangular set design. So you need a piece of A4 paper for this, and you will need an additional piece later. You fold it in half and then half again to create 4 nice equal rectangles. Okay, and what you're going to do in a second is you're going to fold it back in half, like so, and fold down one corner, and make sure you push down, you get a nice crisp line. When you open it up, you're left with 2 little triangles that when you push them together, you create this 3D corner effect. Okay, and again, as I said before with the triangle version, I'm going to glue it down now in the video to show you how to do it, but you don't have to do that yet. If you're going to do the drawing bit, again, you might find that you want to do the gluing bit at the end. I would just put some scribbles or some lines on it so you know not to draw on it, but check that it all fits together nicely like this. And you're now going to need your other piece of A4 paper. Okay, you're going to put it in so you've got a nice 90-degree angle in that square section, and we're going to measure the shape that we need for the flooring. Where that seam is there, that's not going to stay, that's going to be hidden by this piece of paper. So when you put the piece of paper down, you should be able to see the seam on top. You can use a ruler, the side of a book, and whatever you've got to hand. You can even just sketch it lightly with your pencil because you can see the seam underneath. It's completely up to you. So once you're happy with your sketch, you can either fold or use scissors. I find the folding method is more effective. I get nice straight lines, and then I sometimes just use the scissors to neaten it up. So if you're doing the folding method, you want to fold it back and forth a few times, make sure you've got a nice crease, and then gently pull the paper apart. Some people use a ruler to help them get a nice line. Okay, I'm just going to trim that a little bit, and then it fits in pretty much perfectly. Again, you don't have to glue this in at this point because you might find it easier to do the drawing. So now you're going to refer back to the mind map that you've made, either the drawing or the digital version. And I've also just done a little set design, which is one part of your task, just to figure out where I want different aspects to go. It's easier to have a plan in place first than trying to make it up on the spot. Okay, so I'm going to go for the rectangular set just because there's more space. And I'm going to refer back to my design. You can see with the trees, I've tried to overlap them over more than one edge. I'm trying to do that to try and make it feel like my viewer or whoever be in the audience when your set design, say, was real, if you were a set designer, it will make them feel more engrossed and involved in the set. It will make it feel more realistic and less like almost like a dollhouse effect. So I'm using my set design to draw onto my paper template, which will become the 3D version. And I find that if you stop every now and again, fold it back together, make sure it looks okay, press quite lightly with your pencil. I'm pressing quite hard so that you can see it on the video, but you probably do want to press a little bit lighter so it's easier to erase if you need to. If you don't have a rubber at home or you can't find one, you can use also a piece of blue tack or white tack. That will do the job to kind of lift off the pencil. Also you can get sometimes white plasticine will do the same job if you don't have a rubber. Okay, if you can't find a drawing pencil at home, then use a light colour pencil, so something like an orange or a yellow or a pale brown will do the job too. Okay, so I'm just pointing out what aspects I'm drawing now. Now, my original set design is a slightly different shape to the paper template, so I'm having to adapt slightly, but the design is just there to kind of give me some prompts about what I want things to be. Now you need to have a think about whether you're going to go for the traditional Disney styles, the bright colours, kind of quite happy environment, or whether you're going to go for the Tim Burton style, which is a little bit more mysterious and a bit dark. I've gone for a combination of both, so I'm going to stick to using bright colours later on in the video, but I've tried to use the spikes and the strange shapes that come from Tim Burton style. If you've ever seen The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is another one of Tim Burton's movies, he uses the kind of the curvy trees, so I've almost taken that aspect from his and put it into mine. Okay, to get ideas, you're going to want to look at the PowerPoint provided. You might also want to look at some extra set design videos on YouTube. There's lots on there for Alice in Wonderland, to show you kind of how they put things together. Think about having some big objects nearer the audience, so what's called the foreground from when we did our landscape project. But then also you can have, say, a big object in the background that kind of covers a lot of the surface area. So for example, I've got my tree. Okay, if you look really carefully at the tree and also at my plan design and even in my mind map, part of the story, there is a tree in the tea party scene where there's a small door. Okay, so I've tried to include that in my story there to show that I've looked at the idea of Alice's tea party, and I've tried to include things that happen in it in my actual set design. Okay, so I'm just folding it up, checking what it looks like as I go along, making sure my flooring fits nicely still. You could end up taking part of the design from the wall onto the floor if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to go on to show you now how to make almost an illusion as part of your set. Part of being a set designer is you need to create the illusion of distance and of depth, and one way you can do this is by trying to create a perspective. Perspective is something that tricks the viewer into looking into a certain place, so it could be something like a road or a path. I've just gone for stripes, but if you know the Alice in Wonderland film well, then you know that sometimes they use checkerboards. Okay, so if you wanted to use a checkerboard effect, you could. The trick with this is you want to be really careful with your measuring. So you are going to want a ruler or a piece of paper that you folded up to create measurements on, and you're going to want to take your time with this. It is a little bit time consuming, so you may want to do this over a couple of different sessions. What I'm doing is I'm going to have one end of the triangle with quite large stripes, and then the plan is as it gets further away the stripes get smaller. So I've started out by measuring kind of equal distance, and then slowly they're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it should be that by the time this is coloured it creates the illusion of distance. Because the stripes are getting smaller, it suggests to us that the depth of the set is quite large, and that you can see quite a long way into almost the distance. Okay, just seeing how it looks in my sets, and that way if I want to change anything I can. As I said, you can have part of what's on the wall come down more into the flooring if you want to. Okay, so I'm just going back and sorting out some wonky lines. It's important that you're happy with your measurements, so if you need to go back, that's completely fine. I find if you make little dots or little lines as to where you need to put marks later on, that helps too. Okay, you could, if you don't have a ruler, you could do this method just by folding the paper back and forth. You would just then need to stretch it back out before you wanted to stick it down. Okay, so they're getting smaller and smaller now because I want to show that distance and that depth. Okay, and I think that looks good. There's some more lines I might sort out in a second. So I'm going to rub out that middle line. Now that was just my measurement line. I don't need that. It's not going to help me anymore now. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly rub out some of the lines that I don't need and sort out one of the wonky lines. What you could do is you could gently go over the rubber on the whole surface just to take away some of the pencil. Again, I've pressed darker than I probably would if I was drawing this without recording it, just so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and on to colour. I've gone for a sort of pinky purple and then a lime green to contrast. Now, if you remember back to colour theory, red and green are opposite on the colour wheels. They complement each other. Okay, so that's why I've gone for the pinks and the greens. I've also gone for the purple within the pink aspect because to play on the fact that the Cheshire Cat, who is a key character in Alice in Wonderland, in the Disney version, he is pink and purple. So I wanted to add part of that in as a bit of a clue to combining both aspects. So you'll notice I'm not just using a pink pencil and a green pencil. I'm using lots of different colours to blend together to create a more interesting effect. I've also gone for a lighter panel in the middle. So because the middle section points all the way to the main focal point of the set, so I've kept that lighter because I want the viewer to look down that path. Okay, so you can get that effect by using lighter colours in the middle, darker colour at the edges. What you'll notice is as well, I'm using a blue at the end of kind of either side of each line. So the blue when added to the green with a bit of yellow will make a darker green, and the blue when added to the pink will make a purple. So I've chosen colours that will overlap nicely together. Okay, and the trick is you want to go really lightly with your pencil. You want to keep swapping colours, keep going back and forth. If you press too hard, you're going to end up with a flat colour, and that flat colour is going to create just that effect in your set. Okay, it's going to be flat and it's not going to have any depth. So you want to have colour that is oh, I forgot my words, guys. It's kind of multiplied in it. It's got lots of different layers to it, and it's almost like an ombre effect. Okay, if you went for something as completely flat, it wouldn't work so well. If you were doing, say, a checkerboard and you wanted to go for the traditional black and white, then what you might do is you might have one right hand corner that is slightly darker than the other side. Excuse me. So as I said, this is quite time consuming, so you might want to do it over a couple of different ones. I find also if I want to get a really crisp line, I go back in with my ruler and I make sure I've got a nice sharp pencil, so I've got a really precise point. Okay, you could colour this in with crayons, paints as well, whatever you want to. You could use collage, or you could print images off if you wanted to. You can use anything at home really. Collage, so that's sticking kind of paper, fabric down with glue, might actually be really interesting because it'll add more texture to the flooring. You could even get something like fake grass or real grass, bits, and stick that down. You could put dried flowers down. It could be anything you want. This is your set design. You can do whatever you like with it. Okay, just make sure that you think about how it relates to Alice's tea party scene. So what aspects from the story have you included? Also think about who is inspiring you most. So is it Disney or is it Tim Burton? How are you showing that style? Okay, so now that's done. I'm just going to stick it back in my set, check that it looks okay and I'm happy with it. Okay, so I've got the smaller lines in the middle focal point to create that distance. I've added colour to the background. I haven't filmed that as well because you might get a little bit bored watching that. Okay, I may add some more colour to the background, but this is what I've done for now. Checking that my flooring fits in okay. I have got a little bit of the tree bark going onto the flooring. I think I'd probably add more to this if I did it again. Okay, so I'm just sketching that bit in. Once you're happy then, glue it down, tape it down, whatever you want to use. Okay, I hope you enjoyed, guys. Look forward to seeing your set design soon.